This is the Jerry Callahan Show.
Memo to Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Mark Wahlberg, and anyone else who's thinking of buying the rights to the Karen Read story. The price just went up. The story just got even crazier. They are in court as we speak. Are we on Facebook today, YouTube, Rumble? Where are we, Ironhead?
We're in Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. And next week we'll be live on Twitter.
I gotta tweet that out. Did you tweet it out? I gotta retweet it because we are looking live at the Karen Read trial, and it is nuts. Here she is, if you're watching along, and heading into court, surrounded by supporters. More than 200 people showed up to greet her as she arrived with, I believe, her father, and headed into court. Everybody dressed in pink. They were there yesterday, too. Many of them came from all over the country because this trial has captivated everybody. And I'm telling you, it's not. Sometimes you hear that, you go, yeah, it's just a local thing. This is not just a local thing. This involves so much drama, so many people, good and evil. This is a story of a Boston cop who was murdered, and they are pinning it on his girlfriend, claiming she backed up and ran him over and left him to die in the snow. Maybe they'd have gotten away with it, but that meddlesome turtle boy just wouldn't let it go. He and others, there's a few who've been covering it every day, and the closer you look, the more you read, the more you watch, the more you realize this is a scandal of epic proportions. Every time I talk about this or tweet about it, you get a couple of people who say, you're crazy, Turtle Boy is insane, she did it. And every day in court for the last 9 weeks, we learn more and more about this frame up, about these evil, rotten people who thought because they knew all the cops and because the DA was on their side, they could get away with it. Well, they have not gotten away with it. At least I don't think so. I've never seen more reasonable doubt in a case. And even if you're confused, if you're a juror and you're just not sure, then you have to vote to acquit. So today, maybe tonight, we will get a verdict in this case. Each side gets 1 hour to make their closing argument. The defense will probably use less than an hour because they know the prosecution has essentially made their case for them. They have created reasonable doubt. Before the defense even began, the whole trial was in doubt. And the prosecution called 68 witnesses. The defense called 6. Today, as we speak, a juror number 3, is being booted off the jury. And according to Turtle Boy on his Twitter feed, she was the most reliable not guilty vote. She was outwardly expressing doubt, rolling her eyes, shaking her head when some of these prosecution witnesses testified. And the people who were reading the room thought she was going to be a certain acquittal vote. She's out, and she's apparently pissed. And soon she'll be talking, and this thing will just go to a whole new level. I don't know how Matt Damon or Mark Wahlberg is going to be able to jam this thing into a 2-hour movie. It has to be a series, and it will just be wild. Here's a big part of it, and I can't believe what I'm watching. The family of John O'Keefe, the victim, the deceased Boston cop who was murdered and left to die in the snow. We're still not sure how long it takes to die in the snow, are we? I mean, Jen McCabe Googled it, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the answer was, how long to die in the snow. His family showed up in court with the McAlberts, with McCabe, with Chris Albert, Colin Albert, and his family is sitting with the people, I believe, killed him. I think Turtle Boy and others have proved it. Hell, the witnesses, the whole case fell apart in front of their eyes for 9 weeks. And it didn't deter them from sitting, from hanging with the people that we believe killed their family member, John O'Keefe. They walked into court with them. They're with them right now. There's a few things, and we've talked about it a lot over the last few weeks, where you just say, that's it. That's the moment where they created reasonable doubt. That's the moment where this case fell apart. And we've gone over that the Google search, how to die in the cold, how long to die in the cold, the fact that they sold the house, got rid of the dog, tore up the rug, filled in the pool after the incident on Fairview Lane. Yesterday, Turtle Boy again did the job that the investigators should be doing. He essentially proved that John O'Keefe walked upstairs because he had the Apple data. They had the Apple data, and from his phone, and then they claimed it was it could have the ascension and the descension on the data proved that he was on a road that was a hill that had a decline. Turtle Boy went out, tried to redo the steps, retrace the steps, and it showed that the road was flat, and he must have gone upstairs, which means he must have been in the house. That was another gotcha moment. And that was 9 weeks after the trial began. Amazing police work, investigative work by Turtle Boy and others. And now the case is going to go to the jury, and they will, if they're hung up, if it's looks like a hung jury, then it will be even more dramatic. The drama, the tension will build. Karen Read doesn't look all that worried for a woman facing decades in prison. But another thing that I can't get past is, and I know we've talked about this before, but this is a cop who was killed, who was murdered. The state, the prosecution says his girlfriend did it. She's on trial. There are no cops there. If this were a real case, a legit case, that courtroom we're looking at would have hundreds or dozens at least of men in blue. They would show up to support their fallen comrade. That's how it generally works. None of them are there. No Boston cops, none of his colleagues, because they know, because they've followed the case. They know better than we do that many of their fellow officers were lying on the stand. They know the case fell apart weeks ago, and they know Karen Read didn't do it. It is telling that they're not there, and it is chilling to see O'Keefe's family sitting with the alleged perpetrators of this. But we're following it live right now. We will update it. We got a few people, Turtle Boy and others, who are live tweeting from the courtroom, and the drama is off the charts. I told you that a Hollywood heavy hitter is in discussions with Turtle Boy. I'm not supposed to tell you which one, but it is a big name, and that's coming. And so are the trials of the people who actually did it. Those guys have shown that they're not men of honor. They were willing to participate in a cover-up, a frame-up. They're going to turn on each other, and it's going to get even crazier. Karen Read will be done. She can go home. But then the feds will be investigating, and they will be interviewing, and these guys, the Chrome Dome cops, will be turning on each other and pointing fingers, and then the thing is just going to get even nuttier. It has to be an 8-part series on Netflix or Hulu or Apple. It can't be a 2-hour movie, and the whole country is paying attention. It's not a regional thing. It's a drama, crime drama with all the elements, with police and with lovers' quarrels and just evil people and all kinds of drama. And it's going to be good. And she's going to walk. Maybe today, the way it looks to me is like there might be 1 or 2 jurors who have some questions, and they might want to have a good meal, have a long conversation, but there is zero chance from where I'm sitting, from where I'm watching, that they actually put this woman in prison. But
they're dismissing jurors already for seeming like they're going to vote not guilty. I feel like there's just more disgusting crap happening.
Yes, and that juror juror number 3 apparently is pissed and is going to talk, and she will speak to somebody very soon. And she's going to say, if she's dismissed because the prosecution is insisting that she was showing her disdain, her disgust for their case, she's going to have a lot to say. And that is just going to be real telling. And she'll probably talk about, what changed, what convinced her, at what moment. And we've told you there's been many moments where you just say, this isn't working. This isn't working. They thought they could get away with it because they're cops and they're elected officials, and they're in Canton, where it's kind of got this omerta, this what happens in Canton stays in Canton, and it all fell apart in trial because Karen Read had a good lawyer and she had the facts on her side, and she had a few intrepid reporters like Turtle Boy, and it all fell apart on them, and they just kept moving forward. And I guess they figured no turning back. Let's keep going with this. And the longer it went on, the more people took interest. I think even the Globe, which generally supports whatever the state, whatever the narrative is from the establishment, even the Globe has some doubts now. So it's not working. It's fallen apart. And we will see what happens in phase 2. Who becomes the key witness that makes a deal, that flips on all the other scoundrels, and the thing just proceeds from there. We will have more trials, more drama, and in the end, by the end of today, everyone's going to know that Karen Read is innocent. But we'll see. We'll be following it live as we speak. They're in court right now. Juror number 3 is out, an alternate is in, and the closing statements are imminent. And I think by the end of today, that's 2 hours of closing statements, jury instructions, then they deliberate. Got to be at least an hour, even if it's a quick acquittal, hour or 2, which means, 5 or 6 hours, and we'll have a verdict. And it doesn't end there.
They're only allowing 1 hour per side on closing arguments, which is also weird.
Which is great. And unlike the last Trump trial where they went for 5 hours, 6 hours, put everybody to sleep. But that wasn't a real trial. This is, and it's just so wild, so intense, so dramatic, and it's going to get worse for the people who actually did this, for the people who are sitting, these soulless people who are sitting with John O'Keefe's family pretending that they had nothing to do with this. Honestly, you can't make it up. If you did, you'd say that's ridiculous. That's insane. No one's going to believe that. But they went through it. They marched forward, and it has all fallen apart. All right, we'll get to the latest as it breaks. We got so much more to get to. There's another legal proceeding in Houston. Yesterday, one of the 2 scumbags who murdered Jocelyn Nungary was in court. Today, the other one's in court. The details are absolutely chilling. These are evil monsters, just the worst of humanity. And Joe Biden let them in the last couple of months. They walked over the border, and they came with ill intention, and they carried out just the most heinous crime. And I can't get it out of my mind. We'll get into some of the details. They're not pleasant. They're disturbing as can be, but it's important because Donald Trump must remember her name. He must memorize her name, and he must mention her in the debate, which is 2 days away. We are for 55, 56 hours from the first presidential debate. I would say the most anticipated, most watched presidential debate we have ever seen. That is coming Thursday night. And I have a few pointers. I have a few tips, things I need Trump to do and say in this debate when he goes 1-on-3 against Jake Tapper, Dana Bash, and Joe Biden. We'll tell you about Biden's preparation too, man. They brought in everybody to get Joe Biden ready for this moment because it's more important to him than Trump. Biden could fall on his face and then then everybody in the party, all the movers and shakers in the Democrat Party start whispering, he's got to go. This is do or die, probably literally, for Joe Biden. And we'll tell you more about CNN, the network that is hosting this for some freaking reason. Trump explained why he agreed to this. I'll tell you Trump's logic. I don't agree with it, but here we are, 2 days away from the debate on CNN, which is the network that probably hates Trump more. Everybody on the network hates the man and wants Biden to win. That's what we're dealing with Thursday night, and it's going to be nuts. We'll get to that and lots more, but first.
Excuse me.
Be right back. Good to go.
All right, well, we'll get to the case in Houston, the really, really disturbing case. If you haven't heard the details, you should, because it's important and it should come up in Thursday's debate. Here are a couple of pointers. I know we've gone over this before, but it's big. Trump versus Biden in Atlanta on Thursday night, 9 p.m. CNN is hosting. CNN hates Trump. Trump should not have agreed to this, but he did, and he explains why. I'll get to that. But it is almost too easy to point out just how biased CNN is. And there are a lot of people at CNN. There's nobody who hates Trump more than Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. These two have a history of comparing Trump to Hitler, of calling his tenure in the White House a national nightmare. Jake Tapper literally stopped showing a Trump rally because he said he can't do that to his viewers because he lies so much. This guy will show anything, any Biden event, Biden who lies like he breathes, but Trump, they can't show you the challenger, the former president, the next president, because Jake Tapper decides that the viewers can't handle it. They can't handle all his lies and his misinformation. That guy who wouldn't let you see a Trump rally, won't let you see Trump rallies when he's hosting, is hosting Thursday night, the debate. That guy has a mute button. He can stop Trump from doing anything, from saying anything at any time. I know it sounds like Tapper will try to show that he's fair because he's claims to be a journalist, which is a joke. But I think he's obviously a partisan hack, always has been. I mean, he's a Democrat operative with a press pass, and that instinct to me is stronger. That he is more loyal to the Democrat Party than he is to journalism or the pretense of journalism. He's not even going to pretend, and neither is Bash. When we're sitting here and we're going to do it, we're going to be here right after the debate. We're going to do our wrap-up review podcast immediately after the debate. We're going to be talking about how unfair these two were and how frustrating it is, how maddening, infuriating it is to watch Trump go 3-on-1. But I think there's certain things. I mean, obviously, Biden is a dementia patient. Obviously, his mind is mush. This is a huge challenge for him to stand up for 90 minutes. We haven't seen that in a long time. We haven't seen him go unscripted. He's not allowed to bring in props and notes. He can take notes, but he can't bring notes, and neither can Trump, apparently. But my question, and I haven't got an answer to this, is what is Tapper and Bash going to do when Trump changes the subject? Because that's what he has to do. Tapper has a plan, and I'm sure he's shared it with Biden, and I'm dead serious. CNN has given the questions to debate participants before. They gave Hillary Clinton the questions when she debated Bernie Sanders. They are in the tank for Biden, and they will find a way to help Biden prepare for this. I have no doubt. But Trump has to be ready for that. He can't get flustered. He can't get too angry. He has to laugh at these clowns. That's what they deserve. So Trump, when they ask Trump, first question, Bash or Tapper will say, Mr. Trump, what you haven't done anything. You didn't do anything about climate change. The world's going to end in 5 years. What are you going to do about climate change? Or what are you going to do about race? What do you have to say about January 6th? Trump has to say, thanks for the question, but I would like to talk about our debate 4 years ago when Joe Biden looked into these cameras and said that the laptop was Russian disinformation. And he said his son didn't make money in China. The only one who made money in China is you. That was a lie. And Biden recited it like he had prepared for it. He knew it was coming, and he lied to the country. Donald Trump should say that, turn to Joe Biden and say, will you admit to the country right now that you lied, that the laptop was real? Interesting side note. The 51 intel agents that lied and said it was Russian disinformation in service to Joe Biden and his campaign in October of 2020? Those 51 scumbags? You know what one of them's name was? Jeremy Bash. One of the 51 intel agents, those liars, one of them is married to Dana Bash. She's moderating the debate. So that's just one example of what Trump is dealing with. Secondly, he has to say Jocelyn Nungary. And I've heard it pronounced a few ways. Nungary, doesn't matter. The 12-year-old girl who was murdered by 2 illegal aliens from Venezuela, whom Joe Biden let walk into the country in the last couple of months. She was strangled. She was tortured. She was, for 2 hours, we'll get to that, and her lifeless body was thrown into a creek. They got the guys. They're in court. One of them's in court right now. Trump has to say her name and insist Joe Biden say her name, apologize to the family. Joe Biden has blood on his hands. That's a fact. Trump has to point that out. Another thing he has to mention, I know he can't remember every name. Joe, Trump's sharper than Biden, but he's 78 years old. He can't remember every name of every victim of Joe Biden's border bloodbath, but he has to remember one, maybe two, Rachel Marin, maybe three, Laken Riley. That's not that hard. Mention those names, people, women who have gotten murdered as a result of Joe Biden's open border. The other thing I want him to do, and we'll get to this, is remember this name. This is not easy. Hersh Goldberg Poland. We've talked about him before. He's an American, still held hostage by Hamas savages. He had his arm blown off when they took him, when they grabbed him on October 7th. He's still being held by Hamas in a tunnel somewhere in Gaza. Joe Biden doesn't give a shit about Hersh Goldberg Poland. He cares about Dearborn, Michigan, winning Michigan, does not care about this American who is being tortured right now. Here we go, right there on the screen. There's Hersh Goldberg Poland. There's the video of him being taken hostage. He's holding something over his stub of a left arm because they blew his arm off. He's an American. He's an American. And the president doesn't give a damn about him. Donald Trump has to at least mention his name and say, what are you doing to get him home? That is important. He has to make it clear that Joe Biden is a soulless man who cares nothing about anybody but himself. He doesn't care about Jocelyn Nungaray or Rachel Marin or Laken Riley or this poor kid Hersh. In fact, Joe Biden at the White House said Hersh Goldberg Poland is here right now. Remember that? Yeah, he's here right now. He wasn't there. He was in Gaza being tortured by these scumbags in Hamas, the people Joe Biden wants to save, wants Israel to call a ceasefire and save the people who are torturing this young American. Those are just a couple of tips. If he could bring a prop, and I wonder if he can. I mean, they say no props, but what if he did? Would they just take it away? Would Jake Tapper jump out of his seat and tackle him? Here's a prop, a couple of props. One would be the $40,000 check that Jim Biden sent Joe Biden. Obviously, that was the 10% for the big guy. There is a mountain of evidence that Joe Biden has sold out this country. We know it. CNN covers it up. They don't want to talk about it. But what if he pulled out, Greg Kelly has mentioned this before, pulled out a copy of the check and held it up. Here, Joe, what was this for? Joe, they claimed it was a loan. There's no evidence that that his brother took out a loan and he was paying it back. It was clearly Joe Biden's cut on the payoff from China. If he could memorize Trump, just some of the evidence against Joe Biden. He mentioned in the last debate that Joe Biden's family took $3.5 million from the woman in Moscow, the mayor's wife, and Joe Biden denied it. That was a lie. That happened. He could do that again. He could talk about Burisma and withholding $1 billion to protect his son's corrupt company. He's got to do this. And if he tries, I'm sure Bash and Tapper will try to stop him, but he has to try. He has to point out what a corrupt crook is sitting in the White House right now. But I have my doubts that he'll get his chance. Again, it's not a debate. This is not a debate. A debate is an argument. Debate is going back and forth, two guys. Tapper and Bash will not allow them to debate because they know their guy can't handle a debate. Their guy can't handle a press conference. He can't handle a rope line. There is no way he could go toe-to-toe with Donald Trump. And Tapper and Bash know that. They know their job is to protect him, to help him. Here's Trump. Do you want to get to CNN? I mean, honest to God, I could do an hour right now. An hour, just sit back and play examples of Bash and Tapper and everyone else at CNN explaining what a monster Trump is, how they compared him to Hitler. I'm sorry. I understand Trump agreed to this, and I'll tell you why. But shouldn't they insist, if you're Trump's team, shouldn't you insist on a moderator who doesn't compare you to Hitler? Because as we know, the point here, the goal here is to excuse anything and everything. If he's Hitler, you're allowed to lie about him. You're allowed to make up a story about Russian collusion or drinking bleach or suckers and losers or Charlottesville. All the hoaxes in their mind are okay because he's Hitler. And everyone knows if you could stop Hitler, you do. Everything goes, anything goes. No rules, no ethics, no morals. You just go and try to destroy him because he's Hitler. That's what you do when someone is Hitler. Anyway, let's once again give you a sense of who is moderating. Got to, that word doesn't apply. These are not moderates. They are not moderating. These are Biden campaign surrogates. And if you weren't sure, we got the evidence. Let's listen to Fake Jake talk about one of the candidates that he's allegedly going to treat fairly in Thursday night's debate. Go ahead. We can't hear it, Ironhead. Can you fix that, please?
Yep, 1 sec.
You're going to have to trust me. Jake Tapper's comparing Trump to Hitler. No. Yeah.
The dehumanizing rhetoric of Adolf Hitler is once again alive and well on a national political stage. This time, of course, in the United States. Donald Trump, a couple times over the weekend, referred to immigrants from South America, Africa, and Asia. He did not mention Europe. South America, Africa, and Asia as, quote, poisoning the blood of our country, which it's not hyperbole. That does very directly echo Adolf Hitler's language before World War II. To open up a copy of Hitler's Mein Kampf, you would find the Nazi leader describing the mixing of non-Germans with Germans as poisoning. There's really no other way to say it. Donald Trump's language mirrors this directly.
Yeah, that guy's going to be real fair. Hitler versus Biden. That's what we got Thursday night on CNN. And Bash is just as bad. Bash hates him. Obviously, Bash's husband hates him. Their job, they're going to pretend to hide their contempt, but I don't think they can. They just hate him so much. I mean, if Hitler's standing in front of you, you can't hide your contempt, and they won't. They will not. They will try to get in the way, and obviously they will try to protect Biden. So any questions about the laptop? There probably won't be any questions about the laptop, of Biden lying about inflation, about the open border. How do you deal with the open border if you're a Biden surrogate pretending to be a moderator? How do you do that? What do you do if Trump brings up Rachel Marin or Jocelyn Nungaray? What do you do there? Just say, Americans kill people too. That's the approach we heard from MSNBC yesterday. Yeah, but Americans murder 12-year-old girls too. I want to play this because Trump did a town hall on CNN last year. We talked about it with Caitlin Collins. It was very contentious. She was trying to interrupt him every time he talked. He called her a nasty woman. It was good TV. It was perhaps the most watched thing CNN had in years. When it was over, and it was good because Trump obviously isn't afraid to sit with his adversaries in the media, something Joe Biden would never, ever do. Can you imagine Joe Biden going on a town hall or doing an interview with, Sean Hannity or Rob Schmidt or Greg Kelly or Rob Finnerty? It would never, ever happen. He can't even do interviews with people who love him, support him, he couldn't even do the halftime interview at the Super Bowl or the pregame interview because for 3 minutes, because he can't do it, and he knows he can't do it. So Trump does the town hall with Caitlin Collins. When it's over, all the CNN people apologized, said they shouldn't have done it. They should not have allowed one of the candidates on their air in a town hall setting facing tough questions. And this little turd, Anderson Cooper, actually tells CNN viewers that if they stop watching CNN, he understands. He understands because they put a presidential candidate on the air on a news network. They put him on the air. And now if you decide you're never going to watch again, Anderson understands. Listen to this.
Many of you have expressed deep anger and disappointment. Many of you are upset that someone who attempted to destroy our democracy was invited to sit on a stage in front of a crowd of Republican voters to answer questions and predictably continued to spew lie after lie after lie. And I get it. It was disturbing. It was disturbing to see and hear that person refer to a black law enforcement officer as a thug, an adjective he used many times to describe black men, and call Caitlin Collins, the moderator, nasty, which is what he calls any woman who stands up to him. It was disturbing to hear him speak so highly of QAnon conspirators and insurrectionists who assaulted police officers in our democracy on January 6th. And it was awful to hear him spread ridiculous lies about the election. And it was certainly disturbing to hear that audience, young and old, our fellow citizens, people who love their kids and go to church, laugh and applaud his lies and his continued defamation of a woman who, according to a jury of his peers, he sexually abused and defamed. As good a job as Caitlin Collins did trying to fact check him, it is impossible to fact check fully because he lies so shamelessly. Now, many of you think CNN shouldn't have given him any platform to speak, and I understand the anger about that, giving him the audience, the time, I get that. But this is what I also get. The man you were so disturbed to see and hear from last night, that man is the front runner for the Republican nomination for president. And according to polling, no other Republican is even close. That man you were so upset to hear from last night, he may be president of the United States in less than 2 years. And that audience that upset you, that's a sampling of about half the country. They are your family members, your neighbors, and they are voting. And many said they're voting for him. Now, maybe you haven't been paying attention to him since he left office. Maybe you've been enjoying not hearing from him, thinking it can't happen again. Some investigation is going to stop him. Well, it hasn't so far. So if last night showed anything, it showed it can happen again. It is happening.
Enough of this guy. I mean, he's just dripping with contempt, apologizing for putting him on the air and telling people if they don't want to watch CNN anymore, that's okay. Well, they're going to watch CNN again, Anderson. They haven't watched, but they're going to watch Thursday night. And these people, if Trump does well, if Biden struggles, are not going to be able to handle it. Biden, by the way, is holed away in Camp David with 16 advisors prepping for this because they know it is vital and they know that he is not up for this and they know they need to pump him with whatever drug cocktail that it's going to take to get him to be able to just stand up there and make it through an hour and a half. And they know without Jake and Dana, if it was just a real debate, he'd be over. He'd be over. He would just, he can't handle it. He can't handle being challenged. And you know how Anderson Cooper says he doesn't, he understands if you're mad at them for putting a guy who lies, he just lies. He lies about everything. Does he know who the other candidate, the other debater is? Does he understand that Joe Biden's whole presidency, his candidacy in 2020 was based on a lie? He knew it was a lie. They knew it was a lie, but they did not care. Joe Biden claimed he decided to run when he watched the video from Charlottesville and he heard Donald Trump call neo-Nazis fine people. It is such a brazen lie. Trump is on audio saying he condemns the neo-Nazis totally, condemns the white nationalists totally in the speech. He says it. We hear it. Snopes took 7 years, this far left fact checker outfit. They admitted the other day he never said neo-Nazis are fine people. They know it. Biden knows it. But like everything else, Biden just lies so comfortably about it. He claimed he ran because of this, which obviously is not true. Does that bother Anderson Cooper? Does that bother fake Jake Tapper? Not at all. It's just Trump. Can't let you see his lies. Biden's lies, they amplify them. They spread them. They spread the hoaxes, the Russia hoax, the fine people hoax, the drinking bleach hoax. That's their job, to spread the lies that help this guy. Listen to Joe Biden just so comfortably, flat out lie about why he ran for president. Another thing Trump should bring up Thursday night. I don't know if he will. I don't know if they'll let him, but he should mention this. Play this.
Charlottesville is also home to a defining moment for this nation in the last few years. It was there on August of 2017 we saw Klansmen and white supremacists and neo-Nazis come out in the open. Their crazed faces, illuminated by torches, veins bulging and bearing the fangs of racism, chanting the same anti-Semitic bile heard across Europe in the 30s. And they were met by a courageous group of Americans, and a violent clash ensued. And a brave young woman lost her life. And that's when we heard the words of the President of the United States that stunned the world and shocked the conscience of this nation. He said there were, quote, some very fine people on both sides. Very fine people on both sides.
Look at him performing.
Those the President of the United States assigned a moral equivalence between those spreading hate and those with the courage to stand against it. And in that moment, I knew the threat to this nation was unlike any I had ever seen in my lifetime.
Jesus.
I wrote
Can I stop this? Can I point out a couple of things? First of all, look how much he's declined in the last 4 years. He actually could read a teleprompter 4 years ago. He can't do that anymore. Secondly, he's talking about anti-Semites marching, chanting anti-Semitic things about Jews. That happens every day in Joe Biden's America. That happened in LA over the weekend, where they beat up a Jewish woman, where they beat up people trying to go to synagogue. That happened in New York. That happened all over the country on Joe Biden's watch, and he says nothing. Same thing. Charlottesville happens weekly in this country right now, and he says nothing because those are Biden supporters this time, chanting the anti-Semitic bile. He's okay with that because he can't use it politically. This motivated him to run for president. Just such a blatant, brazen lie, and they don't care. Jake Tapper, Anderson Cooper, Joe Scarborough, the whole mainstream media, they don't call him out on this. Your reason for running was a lie, Mr. President. Do you regret that? Simple question. And they will never, ever ask it. It's just so. I have to relax, sit back, and enjoy the debate. I can't let it bother me. I can't. I mean, here's Trump's reason. I told
Wait
you
until afterwards to feel this way.
I know that's why we got to go right on the air. We got to start recording right after the debate on Thursday, because I have a feeling I'm going to be infuriated. Here's Trump talking to Byron York of the Washington Examiner, explaining why he did it. Again, every time I talk about this, I say it's Trump's fault. He agreed to this. He agreed to all the rules, which all favor Joe Biden, except the start time. 9 p.m. start time doesn't favor him, but everything else, the moderators, no audience, no crowd, that favors 2 breaks. 2 breaks. There's never been 2 breaks in a presidential debate before, but he needs that for whatever reason. So he got everything he asked for, but Trump was so eager to get him to agree to the debate that he jumped on the whole thing. He said, quote, "What they did, I'm pretty sure, is that they approached me with a debate that I couldn't take. Dana Bash, Jake Tapper, who we called Fake Tapper, no audience, sitting down, a dead debate, turn off the mics when you're not speaking so I can't interrupt. They knew I wouldn't accept it because it was CNN, Dana Bash, Jake Tapper, and I like an audience, and he doesn't. So they thought they would present it. I would say no, and they would say, well, we can't debate because Trump said no. So I said yes, but before they even gave me the terms. So he got roped in. All right, I still think, could have negotiated for a couple of hours, Donald. You could have had your guys insist on a small audience. You guys, you could have said no mute button for fake Jake Tapper, but he gave in, and I guess it shows he's not afraid, unlike Joe Biden. So I'll have to accept that, but we'll see what all goes down on Thursday night. That's the reason Donald Trump explains why he did it, but we'll see if it indeed turns into just a 3-on-1, just them interrupting and muting and doing everything, then it's going to be really, really frustrating. But let's be honest, by 11 p.m. Thursday night, the whole country could agree that Joe Biden's not fit for office. That could happen. That could be the story at late Thursday night. We will see. All right, I want to get to this Houston story. We'll get back to CNN because I was watching this morning and I couldn't believe what I was seeing, but we'll get to that. I want to get to this Houston story because it's so damn disturbing, and I can't believe the whole country's not outraged. I can't believe people aren't demanding we do something now about the border. The hell with, January. We need to do something now. This thing is out of control. But first,
excuse me.
All right, we've been talking about the two scumbags. It's not even, I can't call them savages. These two subhuman monsters that Joe Biden led into the country. Here's where I struggle with. If you have illegal aliens, and God knows there's a scourge of crime by illegal aliens in this country, we've talked about it many times, sexual assaults and robberies and shoplifting, and, they sit in their hotels, get their 3 squares a day, their free phones, their culturally sensitive meals, Uber rides. They're everywhere. The airport, Logan Airport in Boston, is overrun with illegal aliens. I understand. I shouldn't say understand. I can make sense of criminals who come to this country and just start stealing because they can and they don't face consequences. This just blows my mind that 2 illegal aliens from Venezuela, 2 evil, evil animals, what they did to 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungary. Franklin Jose, this is from court yesterday. One of them was in court yesterday. One of them is in today. We are waiting to see if they can charge them with special circumstances. If there's a sexual component in this murder, then they will face the death penalty. And I think there's going to be real pressure for that. But Franklin Jose Pena Ramos, 26, and Johan Jose Rangel Martinez, 21, bound Jocelyn Nungary's hands behind her back during the brutal assault, then strangled her and dumped her body in a bayou. Her feet were also bound, and her back was covered in cuts. The assault lasted 2 hours. 2 hours. An innocent 12-year-old child spent 2 hours. To put it in perspective, I believe Derek Chauvin put his knee on George Floyd's back for 8 minutes and 43 seconds. That was a long time, and the country was outraged, and politicians used that to encourage riots and uprising, violence for 7-8 months. This was 2 hours. And these 2 maggots had no business in this country. They're not refugees. They're not seeking asylum. Trump was so right when he said they're not sending their best. They're sending murderers, gang members. These evil monsters, Venezuela sent them here. They don't want them. Why would you want them? And they decided to make an innocent 12-year-old American their little plaything, tortured her, bound her, gagged her, murdered her, and dumped her in a river. How is that not the first question? The first question Thursday night, why were they here? Joe Biden, why do you let these people in the country? Why do you let the guy who raped and murdered Rachel Morin? Why do you let the guy who grabbed Laken Riley while she was jogging? Why? Make Joe Biden explain why he opened the border and let them in. When he lies and says, I need Republican help, I need legislation, I can't do it myself, just say, why couldn't you leave Trump's policies in place? Why wouldn't you remain in Mexico. Why wouldn't you leave that in place? These guys wouldn't be here. She wouldn't be dead. It's such an outrage. Her name, her face should be plastered everywhere. If our media wasn't so corrupt, so dishonest, so partisan, this would be a huge story and a big part of the debate. Americans are fed up. They're sickened by this. And it can change. It could change in an instant. Joe Biden could change it. He could sign an executive order closing the border. He chooses not to because he's controlled by the far left kook part of his party who wants open borders, who doesn't talk about this. Again, we've heard nothing. We've heard nothing from Liz Warren, and AOC, and Ayanna Pressley, and Nancy Pelosi, and these alleged champions of girls and women. Women are being murdered by these monsters, and they don't care. They don't care because their hope, their goal was to get these guys in the country, get them registered, get them citizenship, get them green cards, get them to vote. That is the most sinister, cynical, political strategy this country has ever seen. And it doesn't matter. Joe Biden has no soul. He has no heart. He does not care about this girl. He doesn't give a shit about any of them. They don't matter to him. Trump has to make that clear. It's going to be hard, but he has to make that clear. All right. Before we go, I was torturing myself, as I do every morning, watching MSNBC, CNN, flipping around. Yesterday, I was watching live when Casey Hunt, another Democrat operative, posing as a journalist, and she shouted down and cut off Carolyn Levitt, Trump's spokesman, when she tried to mention Jake Tapper's history of hating Trump. And as we recall, she said, "I'm not going to allow that. You're not going to disrespect my colleague," and wouldn't let and it backfired completely. Carolyn Levitt appeared everywhere else, talked about it. It exposed CNN. Good job, Carolyn Levitt. But so I'm watching today, seeing what CNN allows on their morning news. And this is real. This is important. This is CNN. This person, this guy, this man is named Bridget Bandit. Bridget Bandit came on CNN to talk about, I don't know what, protection for drag queens. This is what matters to CNN. Protecting drag queens. I'm not sure protecting them from what. Protecting them from people who don't want them in elementary schools or in libraries, trying to indoctrinate children. And of course, they do an interview with this guy, and they never ask the question. The obvious question is, why don't you ever go to nursing homes? Why don't you go to assisted living facilities, senior centers, and read? Why is it just kids that you want to read to? This is real. This is CNN. Play it.
I'm curious for you, first of all, what this day means to you. And second of all, have both Democrats and Republicans agreed to meet with you?
Yes, we will be meeting with both Democrats and Republicans. And I'm really excited to go speak with all of our lawmakers about the attacks that we're seeing on our LGBTQ community. It's so important to talk about and to discuss protections for our queer community.
Can I let you listen to the current sentiment that's being shared by former President Donald Trump, who, of course, is running for re-election? Here it is.
We're going to take care of our capital. On day one, I was signed a new executive order to cut federal funding of any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto the lives of our children.
In those three things, he mentions what he calls transgender insanity. If he's voted in as the next president, what will that mean to you?
We already see so many attacks on our queer community. I already don't feel safe in my own hometown, just dressed in drag like this. And it's very scary for queer people to exist in a time where we see this kind of rhetoric being pushed by our lawmakers and the people who should care about other issues that actually affect the American people, other than attacking.
This is a man mocking women, not dressed as a woman, mocking. This is a caricature. As you can see, if you're watching along, the eyebrows, the eyelashes, the makeup, the pink hat. I mean, this man is not well. And CNN is trying to normalize him and say Trump is coming after him because he wants to protect children, as he said, from transgender insanity. Let's go with this. That's what I would say. Let's go with this. Let's bring this up in the debate. Let's talk about this. Let's see where the American public comes down on this. Having special protections for this whack job who wants to force his way into elementary schools and children's libraries. Good idea, CNN. So Karen Levitt, no, can't have the spokesman for the president, the next president, hopefully. But we can have Bridget Bandit dressed like that, talking about how he doesn't feel safe. Just I hope this comes up too. But there's what CNN considers news on this busy Tuesday morning. All right, Ironhead, what's the latest in the Karen Read trial? I know you're not paying attention. That's obvious to the show. You're transfixed to the trial. Anything new? Are we into closing arguments?
Apparently Alan Jackson is just absolutely laying waste to that courtroom right now and basically taking every argument that he anticipates the Commonwealth putting forward and poking holes in it before they even get to go. So,
oh, good. You know what? I think it's going to be quick. I think it's going to be quick, and it's going to be justice, and it's going to be wild, and there's going to be a lot of happy people outside the Dedham courthouse, all dressed in pink. They're not dressed like Bridget Bandit. They're dressed in pink in support of Karen Read. No, that's not why Bridget is dressed that way. She's dressed that way. He's dressed that way because he gets excited when he dresses like that. I think he's trying to look like Nancy Pelosi. That's my guess. He's got the eyelashes and the makeup and the eyebrow. But you know what? We were going to take a couple days off. I don't know, man. I don't know if this Karen Read thing happens. We might have to do an emergency podcast, but I got some things going on. We will be back Thursday night, no matter what. Post-debate, I think I'm going to have to do it. That right after the debate, we'll have some reaction to the debate. Hopefully we'll get that posted quick, but maybe we'll have a verdict soon, and maybe we'll have something to say about that. But for now, for today, we will leave it there. I'm Jerry. Look at all these comments. Most of them ripping you for screwing up the audio, but we can fix that. You'll get that fixed, right?
It happens once in a while.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. I'm Jerry Callahan. This is The Callahan Show.